Hi, Victor.
Hey, Tia, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Welcome to the Arrive at Happy show. I am very excited to have you on.
I am very happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, you have been in the hospitality and in the people, talent, HR world for a very long time. You have such incredible experience. I want to start off by talking about work environments, both in corporate offices, on property, just all sort of types of work environments. And I would love to hear from you. What do you think is needed or required to create a positive work environment? And I will also say, can you talk about in person, virtual, hybrid, the creating positive work environments in all the ways that people are working today?
Okay, wow. All right. This is what I'll say. Well, it starts at the top. It starts with senior leadership, and for me, it's all about being a servant leader and what that means to me for being a servant leader. Because we have a tendency to want to show people who's boss and that we mean business, and that doesn't that's the old school way of thinking. That doesn't work. For me, you have to be humble and you have to be a servant leader. Our team members are the closest to the guest. They're the ones that get things done, and they are our most prized possession. That's the largest part of our expense in our business, usually is our workforce, right? So
Right.
me, what can I do to knock down barriers and help them take care of customers? What can I do to help them with issues that are going on in the workplace? How can I remove those barriers? And how can I be a servant leader to them? So I think most important, you got to do those things first.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, I don't think it matters whether you're virtual, hybrid, or not. In fact, I think it's even more paramount when
Mm-hmm.
it is hybrid, when it is virtual, because you can't be there face to face. And even though you're on video, you sometimes you can't see that I'm returning. I feel your pain through
Mm-hmm.
video, but when you're face to face, you can't. So I think even more so, you have to be sometimes almost over the top when you're dealing with a hybrid or a workforce. So if cameras are off more often than they have been in the past,
Yeah.
that's a sign to me that maybe I need to do a check-in. So I think we need to do more check-ins with folks that are hybrid. And then back to what else we can do. I think we have to get rid of the BS, because sometimes we need to understand that Gen Z, younger millennials is the largest part of our workforce, and they can smell gaslighting, they can smell BS a mile away. So what's the point of trying to do that? So just be very upfront about things. We shouldn't be keeping these secrets. There are certain exceptions to that, but for the most part, when you create a secretive environment, people want to know what's behind the screen, what's on the other side. And if you create the secrecy, that has a tendency to have problems. People start creating their own narrative. So just be
Right.
upfront.
So it
Um,
sounds like you're talking about like be open, be real, be transparent.
yes, yes, absolutely. Do those things. Then once you have that foundation, then you can start holding folks accountable. Again, some leaders want to just really hold people to their feet to the fire, and I'm okay with that. But what I'd like to see first is that we are doing these things first, where we're being a servant leader. Then
Yeah.
you can be firm, you can hold people accountable, because for the most part, that's what people want in a workplace, is fairness and people being held accountable. That just runs amok when you are not holding people accountable. Then you just have people thinking, well, if that's okay for them to do it, then I'll do that.
Right.
So I do believe in just having accountability, but after you do those things. And then what I would say then is, if you do all of those things, then I would also add programming. Everywhere I've gone, I've always had programming around making sure that people are being seen. So I'm doing things around the heritage months. And then even in between those heritage months, I am doing things that help that allow people to be seen. So even though if I do a bring your kids to work day when I'm on property, I used to do that. Still trying to figure out how to do this virtually.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was on property, I would do bring your kids to work day, but then I would also do bring your pets to work day later in the year. So I was always trying to do something throughout the year that hit somebody in the organization so that they are seen. And when you do programming around that, which means education, celebration, recognition, then everybody feels like they're being seen. And I, just using my company as an example, when we do spotlights throughout the year, where we're spotlighting someone, we're saying, hey, this is someone in our organization. These are the things that they are doing. And then we ask them 5 questions. And the 5th question always is, how is our company, how is ACE different than wherever you worked? And I'd say 87%, I haven't done the math on it, but I don't want to say 90, but I'll say it's 87. And the answer always is that 87% of the time is that I can bring my whole self to work. I can be myself at work. I can be myself at work. And that to me is huge. And it's not, something that I wrote on the career site. That's what people in my organization are saying. And it's because we're doing these things where people are allowed to be seen.
Wow. I feel like if people were driving or exercising, they need to go back and write down, because you just gave such an incredible list of ingredients to create a great work environment. And of course, you are such an expert and done so much work on diversity, equity, inclusion. And I love everything you said about whole self and being seen. Let me ask you this. How do you know, or how do other executives in your company know if a leader anywhere in the organization, on property, et cetera, because you have a big organization, how do you know if someone is not creating a really positive work environment? What data or indicators, or how do you start to go, oh, maybe this area is more negative than positive?
Yeah.
How do you figure that out?
The more common one is your engagement survey. We did one last year, and we're about to, in less than 2 weeks, we'll be kicking off our engagement survey. And right now we're annual, and I would say that you need to do them more often. And I do them in a sense. When I do my programming events, there's a survey at the end. And in there, one of the questions always is there anything else you want to tell us? So survey your.
So there are some pulsing throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So you need to do an engagement survey, and then you need to be asking questions. And then you just need to have your ear to the ground. And so when I start hearing from, we push our core values, ACEs for everyone. We come from a curious place. When I start hearing things that are going against that, this is what's going on between me and my leader, and this is what's occurring, and it sounds like something that's going against those values, then that's a trigger for me to then start asking more questions in that particular workplace and of that particular leader, and find out what's going on there, and have a conversation with that leader. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's happening.
So it sounds like people will come forward to you, or to, even if you're not necessarily prompting, that just because of you sort of having your ear to the ground and listening, sounds like you have a listening strategy.
Yeah, when I go on property, I go to each property, and I will do training throughout the year. But when I'm there, I will then tell my HR director, hey, I'm arriving on this day, leaving on that day. I'll do the training. Tell me what days you want me to do the training, and then look at the open spaces I have on my calendar.
Yeah.
And tell the team, Victor's here, and if you want to speak with him, you can go onto his calendar and put time in. And so I always have that when I go on property. Certainly, we have the employee hotline, which is to go to an external third party that will capture that information and then bring it back to me. And then I almost end every meeting that I have, every training that I have, and I'll say any questions on whatever the content is. But then I'll say, okay, now you happen to have me here. Is there anything that you want to discuss or handle or talk about? And then I have one-on-ones with every new leader to the company. I have one as soon as part of their onboarding, they meet with me. And I have 3 or 4 things that I always go through with them that I want them to be aware of. Don't be making a lot of bold, quick changes in your first 30 days, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But then I say,
good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I say to them, you will see a lot of emails because I send out a lot of content throughout the year. And I'll say, you'll see on there at the bottom of my signature, you'll see my phone number. That's my cell phone number. It is always on. You can call me, you can text me, you can G-chat me all the time. And so I'll get a text saying, and then I also do say, though, now listen, if it's something that's going on your property, you need to talk to whoever that person is that you have an issue with first. You need to go talk to my HRD next if you don't feel like you got satisfaction, or the GM. And then if you've done those things and you still don't feel like you have satisfaction, then certainly you can call me. Or hey, you could just text me to say hello too. You don't have to call me because you're having issues. You can just say hello. Text me anytime. And I will tell you, 2 weeks ago, I got a call from a sous chef at one of our properties who said, hey, you told me that I could always call you. And yes, I did talk to my manager. Yes, I did talk to the HRD. And I wonder if you could help me out. And I said, yeah, let's tell me what's going on.
That's great.
So.
Okay. So let's talk about talent, because in many industries, including yours, there is, I don't know if talent war is the right, but there are different types of positions. There's things that are attractive to people right now. Like some people want full-time flexibility, I was with a client yesterday and they said one of their friends is working in a different country every single month. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, left job and just doing sort of digital nomad. Obviously the world of work is so different. So from your perspective and experience, thinking of where companies are right now, not just hospitality, but just companies, how can companies attract great talent? Because I know your company is attracting really great people. How are you doing that? What advice do you have to people that maybe are struggling with attracting great talent?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you said you were hesitant to say war on talent, because I've been doing this since 2000, and since 2000 we've been saying there's a war for talent, right?
Okay.
And so what I say now is, it's like if you ever follow Terminator, I'm a big Terminator fan. Yeah, it's like Terminator level.
Got it. Okay, Terminator level. All right.
That is what's going on now with trying to get the right folks. And I mean, quite frankly, to me, I think the bigger issue is retention. I think that's the bigger issue. But
for talk about retention, we could definitely. I mean, both are so important. So,
well, I mean, it's the things that I just said before will help you with retention.
Yes.
And then there are some other things I'll get to. But to answer your question on what we do, I'll be frank and say I don't know that we have cracked the code yet. I think we do it automatically just because of the DNA that we have. I don't think we're doing anything special per se. There are still some things that we're working on. We do not have a great career site. I'd like to have a better career site. This is hilarious. I told my handy person that's supposed to come that the door would be open. And so now he came to the back door instead of the front door. Go around front. All right. Hopefully we can edit that part out. But
yes, we can.
Back to the talent. We don't have a great career site. I think that there's some things
that opportunity.
So for those, that's one thing that you need to make sure that you do is you have an inviting site. Right now, I'd like to have some more videos of my team on there talking about their experiences. Yeah. I'd like to have more information on what we do as a company. People gravitate to us.
Yeah, as you say, your DNA, going back to that, like that's there's a brand and a ethos and a culture. and
Yeah.
product and experience that people are attracted to.
Right. Yeah. You can see it is difficult to tell the difference between our customers and our team members when you walk into our hotels. It is aces for everyone and everyone is there. And it is hard to see that we don't wear name tags. We're just not pretentious like that, right? We don't wear name tags. In a lot of cases, we're not in uniform. And people are attracted to that. We're a very creative company. And so when you look in our hotel, I was in Ace, New York just a week and a half ago, and in the lobby, everybody's there on their computers. The place, every seat is full in the morning with people working on their computers. And that is, if you look at our corporate team, that's who we are. We're copywriters, we're editors, we're marketing folks. And that's what's in those are our customers.
Those are the customers. Yeah.
So we have a pretty easy go, but I would say make sure your career site looks good. Make sure that you have a variety of funnels. Sometimes that's where you're missing out on great talent, is because you don't have enough funnels that are open. So you need to make sure you're on the right job boards, make sure that you're going to the right schools. Sometimes we make the mistake of going to schools that some of our senior leaders are in, but that's not where everybody is at, right? So you're going to the right schools. Make sure that you're going to a variety of schools. We work with HBCUs, not only HBCUs. That's the big buzzword from 2020 was, let's get involved with HBCUs because we see what's happening with Black folks, so we're going to get involved with that. But it's not just HBCUs. It's HSIs, Hispanic serving institutions as an example, or Native American institutions as an example. So we go to all of those funnels. Community-based organizations is another opportunity, usually missed opportunity. So make sure you're going to those. They are tough but it's like folks that go to that are hunting for furniture in those secondhand stores. It's kind of the same thing. You find these great treasures when you go through there. So that's the way I look at it when I go to community-based organizations. So make sure you have all those funnels open to get as many folks into the funnel so that you can pick the right talent. And then I would also say, instead of just having the hiring manager make that decision, if you do a panel of folks to make a decision on who you're hiring, you tend to make better decisions. Folks that you're coming in.
I agree.
You'll have a wider perspective, and then consequently, you'll have a wider perspective of folks that come into your building. And then you find that you have much more creativity, much more innovation, because you have a wide variety of folks that are
coming back to that, like all belonging and diverse, et cetera.
Yeah.
Super great. Okay. So on a previous call, we were talking about the HR role, talent, people, culture. And over the last few years, this role has been elevating, but we talked about it's still not where it needs to be. If you think about potentially equivalent of, let's say, finance leaders, or, commercial sales leaders, or operational leaders. And you and I are very aligned and agree that HR talent should be right at the top with influence, with budget that they receive, et cetera, as these other division heads. So can you share your perspective on why this role needs to elevate, and maybe for people listening in this role, one or two things that they can do to elevate their own role?
Yeah, I think the reason why is sort of at the very beginning when I started, right? I said that our workforce, that is our most precious commodity. That's who's getting it done for us as a business. And that's where that's usually 50% or so of our expense is on labor. And so I am the person, as the VP of HR, senior leader of this company, the top person for human resources. I'm the advocate for all of those folks, and the decisions that we make as a business impacts all of these people. And so to me, it's paramount. And typically when I was at the hotel, it was the general manager, myself, director of finance. It was usually it's certainly the entire executive committee, all should be in lockstep for sure.
Right.
But
Right.
it's typically the GM, director of finance, and the director of human resources that need to be in alignment with what's going on, because usually there are financial impacts, there's risk on everything that we do as a business, and it impacts our folks. And sometimes, there's this faucet that you have to turn on and off that has to do with people. So it's paramount that we are involved in those decisions when we're talking about increases for the company. What's our budget? What is our budget for salary increases for the company? HR should be at that table, should be part of that discussion. Anything that we're doing, there's a change in the way we're going to be operating as a business impacts our people. HR should be at the table.
I mean, what doesn't impact people, right? Every single thing.
Yeah. So we have to be there. How do we make sure that we're at the table? Because yes, what I had said, for those that are listening, what I had said to Tia was, if I go to another SHRM conference, which is the largest association for HR, and they talk about having a seat at the table, I am going to scream, because it's not even, it's a given that we should be
you're at the table, right?
So how do I make sure, for me, when I talk to my HRDs, I have an HRD and sometimes an HR manager or HR coordinator at every hotel, we talk about this often, and it is, you are not the compliance police. You are not the principal's office. You are not the, no, we can't do this. You are the solution provider. You are, hey, this is what's going on in our organization. This is a new initiative that's happening. How can I provide training? How can I help the team get there? What kind of change management can I do to help the team get to this goal? What can I do to help them make those goals? Not, no, you can't do this because of compliance, or no, you can't do that. It is, how do we get it done? So come up, be a solution-oriented person, problem solver. And then when it is something that's going to get us into hot water, because that is part of our job, then you need to come up with, okay, look, we can't do this, but we can do this. Come up with, again, same thing. You got to come up with solutions rather than just no. And then, and unfortunately, I still see this sometimes. All leaders are have done this a time or two, but including HR, which absolutely cannot happen, is where you sort of have, I want them to create a relationship with all of their senior leaders, but you still have this arm length distance. And it's a certain nuance to that. You have to be able to build relationships, but you cannot be, going out every night, or, going out all the time with one particular executive committee member, for example. You had to have this, you should go out with all of them. You should you should do those kind of things. So you got to look like you are the impartial, the impartial person here, because that is your role, because sometimes you may have to come down on the GM.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes, it's necessary.
Right. And I would say real quickly, the last thing I would say is, speaking of the GM, you have to be in the GM's ear. I wanted to be a GM until I figured this part out. Once I got to the table and I was in the GM's ear, and I would say, hey, you know what? That wasn't, you were a little too hard on that person. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have said that. You need to go back and apologize. Or, hey, this is wrong. Do not do that. And I have the ability to be able to do those things. It's scary because this is your boss. But if you can do those things,
you're an advisor,
and say, hey, that's a great job. Keep doing that. Do more of that. And you can do that. They respect you that much more and will confide in you in other things. And you will secure your place at the table when you hold them accountable. Same thing. You're a servant. What do you need? What do you want done? How can I help? Oh, this is the problem. Here's the solution. You do those things. And then when they mess up, you got to say, hey, that's wrong. Don't do that. That's not cool. Make sure you fix this. And then you will secure your seat at the table.
Right. Okay. I have one final question. Does your company calculate, or do you know the cost of turnover? So like if an associate leaves, or a manager leaves, or a director leaves, or a GM leaves, do you have financial, of course, it doesn't be exact, like to the dollar, but do you know approximately the expense of turnover?
Well, yes and no. I can tell you what we did last year. I haven't done the math for where we are to date this year. When we did a leadership development training program. We went on the road, and in part of our leadership development, we told them where we were at, which in last year, in the summer of last year, it was to the total turnover was somewhere around 300 between $300,000 and $500,000, because between hourly and leadership, we were between, which is still a big swing, but between $300,000 and $500,000. So
got it. So you know the total. Okay, so you are tracking. There's
we were below, industry average hospitality is 80 something percent. We were in the 60 summer of last year, we were in the 61% on turnover. So my thing was, hey, this is great. We're doing better than the industry. But 60% is not a number we want to be.
We still need to get better. Yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, Victor, we could keep talking. I could ask you 50 more questions, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks for having me, Tia. Always good to see you. You have a great day as well. Take care.